Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto gains all 9 Bijuu and the ultimate Sharingan, part 2, subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. The Anbu medics managed to treat Mei's injuries and left her with Naruto and Shinku because Naruto stated that he would take full responsibility for her. Shinku left to finish her shift patrolling the shoreline while Naruto stayed in the tent to watch over her while she was out. Here he must still be in a civil war with the Yonde Mizukage. But how did she get all the way here? He wonders until he hears her groan and slowly opens her jade green eyes. She blinks a few times and realizes that she was in a tent. Where am I? She mumbles to herself as her eyes wander around and she sees a blonde shinobi who seemed to be 14 and was wearing a headband that had a swirl in it. Who are you? She asks, getting a chuckle from the blonde. Now is that any way to treat your savior Kunoichi-san? Naruto asks while she blinks for a while. Why you saved me? She asks, and he nods. You washed up on the shorelines of Kumogakure and I revived you and brought you back to my tent while the medics checked your condition. He answered. Her eyes widened and she looked under the covers to see she was wearing a tank top and some shorts while her arms, legs and torso were bandaged up and looked back at Naruto who chuckled at her glare. Relax, my sister undressed you while I was out of the tent and made sure the medics didn't pull anything funny on you while treating your wounds. I got the lump proving she kicked me out even when I was going to leave. He answers while rubbing the back of his head. Mei gives him a suspicious look for a while and she smiles back. Thank you, she started to say. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. He answered, making her eyes widen. You're the son of the Kairoi Senku and the Akano Shai. She asks and he nods. But if that's true then why aren't you in Konohagakure? She asks and he sighs at that. My mother took me and my sister away from there because certain members of the council wanted to either kill me or turn us into breeding factories when we got older. He answered and her eyes widened at his answer. Are you serious? Why would they want to do that to you and your family? She asks. Sorry, but it's a family secret. He answered and she huffed at it. Fine. So I'm in Kumogakure, huh? Am I a captive? She asks and Naruto shakes his head. No. I'm taking responsibility for you until our border patrol mission is over. Oh, I forgot to ask you your name. He says, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Mei Terumi, and thanks for saving me Naruto-san. She answers and he nods. The sound of thunder hits the sky and they can hear the rain pouring on the tent. Naruto snorts and laughs while Mei sits up slowly and raises an eyebrow at him. Something humoring you, Naruto? She asks the laughing blonde. Yeah, my sister suffered in that downpour. She hates the rain. He answers, but stops laughing when the tent entrance flaps open and he sees a wet and pissed Shinku. Stupid rain, stupid weather reports. I'm gonna kick Anbu's ass for saying that it wasn't gonna rain. She mumbles and removes her jacket, wearing a mesh shirt and a tank top under it. Hey Amato. He says. Shinku just glares at him and walks over to her side of the tent and sits on the ground. She removes her mesh shirt and then takes off her tank top, wearing a sports bra under it. Aniki, do you have an extra towel? She asks. Naruto pulls one out of his duffel bag and tosses it to her. Thanks. She says and wipes off her face and hair. After she does that, she places the towel around her shoulders and sits down with her legs crossed and leans back. I see our guest has woken up. I'm Shinku, Naruto's twin. She replies while Mei's eyes widen a little and looks at the two. I'm Mei Terumi and thanks for rescuing me. She says and Shinku smiles. You're welcome. Mei then looks back at her and Naruto whose jacket was now off, revealing a black sleeveless muscled shirt. Mei had to avert her eyes somewhere and hold down the blush that was rising and then she asked a question. You two share a tent? She asks. They blink and look at each other, then look back at her. Yes we do, why? Shinku asks. Don't get me wrong, I know you two are siblings, but do you change in the same tent? She asks. The twins look back at each other and snicker. Yeah we do, and it doesn't bother us, I mean we used to share and change in the same room when we were little. Naruto says. Mei's eyes bulge out of her head as she looks at them. What? But doesn't it embarrass you when you change in front of the opposite sex? She asked and they shook their heads. No. Not really. They both answer with smiles on their faces. Wow. You're kind of odd for gender twins. She says and that was when her stomach growled. The twins laugh lightly while she blushes. Naruto walks over to a cooler and pulls out a canteen that is filled with sliced fruit and hands it to Mei who takes it and opens the lid, pulling out an apple slice. Thank you. She says and bites down onto the apple slice. You're welcome. He says while she takes out another and eats it. While Mei was eating the fruit out of the canteen, Naruto decided to speak up. So Mei-san. How is it that you ended up getting washed up in Kumo's shoreline? He asks her. Mei finishes the fruit and then sighs. War. She answered while Shinku blinked in confusion. Kurigakure is in the middle of a civil war called the Purge. It was ordered by our current Mizukage, who believes that bloodlines are the reasons why we have wars and want to get rid of them by purifying our village. She answered, making their eyes widen at that. That's terrible. He's killing those that possess bloodlines just because he believes they're responsible for the wars that have been happening. That's sick and unfair to those who are innocent. She says, and Naruto sighs. That's just how the ninja world is, sis. Naruto says, and she looks at the ground. I know, but still. It's not fair. She protests, and Naruto nods and looks back at Mei. Mei-san, are all of the nin from against the genocide? He asks. Half of them are, and they created a rebel army to fight against the Mizukage. Most of them are clans with bloodlines, but there are also those who don't have bloodlines that are with them. I happen to be a part of the rebels. She answers that it was when a thunderclap was heard and Naruto performed a few hand seals and the area around them glowed and became a barrier. Mei blinks when she feels the chakra spike and looks at Naruto. I created a chakra barrier that'll keep the bad weather out. It's not as easy as it sounds because you need a lot of chakra to keep it active. Luckily I placed some seals that are linked to each other and they create a double-layered barrier around us. He explains. Wow. Was all Mei could say due to the fact that it was a very difficult art to learn and there were very few who knew it. Yeah, I've always been fascinated with it. You could say it runs in my family. Shinku is also good, but she's not close to my level. He says with a cheeky grin on his face, but then ducks as Sandal flies past his head. Shut up, Aniki. I'm still better than you at water. She said while he sticks his tongue out at her. That's because Ka-san taught you defensive-based ones, well Kakashi Nai-san taught me offensive ones, he says, but then catches the second sandal while she pouts at him, crossing her arms over her chest. Jerk. She mumbles while he chuckles. Anyways, our patrol mission is over tomorrow morning. We'll take you over to the Raikage's tower and you can explain everything to him. He states while she nods. Will I be able to return back to my rebel base? I don't want to involve a neutral village like Kumo in our country's situation. She asks. Sure, if that's what you want to do, but do you honestly think that you can beat the Mizukage with a few rebels and bloodline users? He has Shunin, Jounin, Anbu, and Hunter Nin in his forces, and it's possible that they outnumber you and your rebellion. He states, and she frowns. I have no other choice. She says, but Naruto shakes his head. Yes, you do have a choice. Be patient. If you try to pull a kamikaze attack against the Mizukage and his forces, they'll wipe you out before you can even enter the village gates. He replies. Mei looks at the ground and clenches her fists. You'll just be leading those who believe in you to an early grave, Mei-san, and you know my brother's right. Shiku says and lays back on her futon. Naruto yawns and lays backing his futon also. Look Mei-san, I'm pretty sure the Raikage would love to help you out if you ask. He's a great Kage and he has been looking for alliances for a while. Once the civil war in Kiri is over I'm sure he would like to make one. He says and she thinks about it. Are you sure I can trust the Raikage? She asks and Naruto looks at her and smirks. In my opinion, yes. He can be hot-headed and ignorant most of the time, but he's also a man of honor. Something that you don't see in most ninjas due to our lifestyle. He replies and she blinks at him. So what is your connection with the Raikage? She asks. I'm his former apprentice. He says and her eyes become the size of dinner plates. Apprentice B, but you don't even wear a headband representing Kumo. She stated and Naruto shrugs. I know. Me, Shinku, my Ka-san, and a few others work for him as ninjas for hire. He answers while Mei's jaw drops. Naruto looks at her and chuckles. Well, you might want to get some sleep, Mei-san. Tomorrow we're going back to the Raikage tower so you can talk to him. Oh, and also if you can ignore his younger brother's antics. He says and falls asleep. Mei blinks for a few minutes but then lays back and closes her eyes, hoping that the boy no young man was right and can help her save her village and country. If he did, she'd forever be in his debt. I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like I can trust him. You are a very interesting person, Naruto. She thought before drifting off in her sleep. Morning. The sun shone down in the forests and Naruto opened his eyes to see Shinku snoring lightly and drooling slightly. He saw Hitam in her fox form sleeping on top of her bare torso. Naruto chuckles at this and sees Mei whose chest was rising and falling as she slept. The Tomi stirs and blinks a few times and yawns. She looked up to see Naruto who was smirking at her and her eyes smiled. She then sees Mei's sleeping form and leaps off of Shinku. She walks towards Mei until she is a few inches from her face and then starts to lick her cheek. Mei stirs and giggles when the vixen does this, and Mei opens her eyes to see an eye-smiling fox who yips at her. Mei smiles at her and then sits up, picking Hitomi up and setting her on her lap. "Why hello. Is this young man's friend?" she asks as she rubs her behind the ear, getting a purr from the fox. Naruto chuckles and speaks up. "Her name is Hitomi. She followed me home when I finished training and hasn't left me since," he says while she smiles at the purring fox. "Don't let her innocent form fool you. She's a trickster and will steal anything shiny or pretty that she sees," he says. Hitomi glares at him and he gives her a mocking glare. "Don't you glare at me, little thief." He wags his finger in front of her and she does the puppy eye look. "Oh kawaii," Mei says as Hitomi looks up at her and yips. "What's that? He's a meanie and doesn't give you any attention," she says, and the vixen nods. "You poor thing. Naruto, how could you be so mean to something so cute?" Mei asks as she holds Hitomi in front of him and she grins at the blonde whose brow was twitching and sighs. He then takes Hitomi from a pouting Mei and places the yipping fox on his shoulder. "Come on you sly vixen. We're gonna go catch some food. If you behave I'll catch you a rabbit," he says, and her eyes now had stars in them. Naruto pulls his sandals on and he shunshuns out of the tent. Shinku then wakes up and stretches. She looks around the tent only to see Mei. "Good morning Mei-san. Where's Naruto and Hitomi?" she asks. "They went to get some breakfast for us. Do you happen to have any clothes I can wear?" she asks, and Shinku nods. She pulls a scroll out of her duffel bag and opens it, revealing a black long-sleeved shirt and shorts that seem to stop over the knees. "These should work," she says and places them beside her. "Thanks," she says as she removes the covers and takes off her shirt and shorts, wearing a matching blue bra and panties underneath. She puts the shirt over her head and pulls it down and puts the long shorts on. "The shirt isn't too tight, is it?" Shinku asks, and Mei shakes her head and pulls her long hair back and ties it back. "No. Thanks for the spare clothes," she says, and Shinku smiles. "You're welcome. Say, how old are you Mei-san?" she asks. "I'm 22, why?" she asks, and the retard giggles. "Well, I just wanted to let you know that my brother, he has a thing for older women," she replies, and Mei's eyes widen. "What? Why older women? He's a pervert, isn't he?" she asks as she narrows her eyes and her brow twitches. "No, he's not a pervert. Naruto is a decent guy and he respects women, well, not shallow and snobbish ones. He stays away from them. The reason he likes older women is because they are more mature than the ones that are his age," Shinku explained, and Mei blinked at her. "Oh? He likes older women because they're more mature. But he's what? 14? 15? She asks, and Shinku nods. "Yeah. We are both 14 and turn 15 next year. So do you have a boyfriend?" Mei asks. Shinku rubs the back of her head and blushes. "Me? No. Mostly because my brother is very overprotective of me, and the last boy who made a pass and tried to grope me ended up with all 4 of his limbs broken and being sterile for the rest of his life," she says with a grin on her face. Mei's eyes were now the size of dinner plates and she gawked at him. "Wow. You're really lucky to have a brother like him," she says, and Shinku nods. "Yes, I am. But he can be a pain sometimes, especially when he pulls his pranks. One time he switched my shampoo with orange hair dye," she says, and her brow twitches. Mei giggles when she says that. "You seem to have an interesting family," she says. "Yeah. Just wait till you meet my mom and the others, but you'll have to watch yourself around Kakashi Nai. He's a closet pervert," she states that Mei's brow twitches. Back at the Namikaze household, Kakashi was reading his book and he sneezed on the page. Tears fell from his eyes and he threw a tantrum, flailing his arms and legs around in chibi form. "No. My autographed limited edition of Icha Icha Paradise Volume 3 is ruined," he cries out. Anko, Yugao and Rin saw this and sweat drops appeared on their faces. "What the heck is wrong with your boyfriend, Rin?" Anko asks, and Rin sees the book and twitches. "I have no clue," she says. "Senpai just keeps getting weirder and weirder every day." Yugao asks as her sweat drops grew bigger when he started sobbing over his baby with a gray cloud hanging over his head. That was when Kushina walked in. "Hey Mina, hey, what is wrong with Kakashi? Why is he mourning over Iro Senen's book?" she asks, pointing a finger at the mourning copy nin. The 3 women shrug. "We have no idea. When are Yandere Chibi and Shinchan coming back?" "I miss the blonde-haired cutie," Anko says with a pout on her face. Rin sweat drops, Yugao faces faults, and Kushina groans. "They should be home today, Anko," Kushina said in a deadpan voice, and Anko's eyes lit up. Yugao gets up and stares at Anko. "Are you still trying to jump Naruto, Anko?" You're 23 for crying out loud, and he's 14. She states, and Anko shrugs. So what? He's a ninja. If you're old enough to kill, then you're old enough to do adult things like have sex. Anko states. Kakashi hears the word sex, and a perverted giggle escapes his mouth. You're hopeless, Anko. Yuga states, and Rin nods. Oh please, I've seen you check out his ass when you think no one's looking. Anko says with a smirk on her face. Rin looks at her in shock, as does Kushina and Kakashi. She's lying, sensei. You know how Anko is. The female swordsman says while a tint of pink appears on her face. Anko's grin grew even bigger. Oh please, I even hear you mumble his name, calling him Naruto-kun. She coos out, and Rin's jaw hits the floor, as does Kushina. Anko? Shut up. Yuga growled out as her facial appearance darkened. It's true. She even mumbled about how long his sword is. She says. That was when Yuga did the big demon head with her face glowing red. I was referring to his blade, you pervert. She yelled. Sure you were, but don't feel embarrassed. I'm sure he'd let you play with his sword. She said, but then she had to duck from a sword slash that took some of her hair, and Anko was running out of the house laughing as Yuga went after her with her katana in her hand. And her eyes were glowing red. Come back here, Anko Mitarashi. I'll show you what I can do with a sword. She yelled, and the others had huge sweat drops on their heads. Her mouth is gonna get her killed one of these days. Kushina mumbles, and Rin nods. Kakashi just rubs the back of his head, but then appears behind Rin and whispers some things in her ear, making her eyes widen and a blush appear on her face. You hentai. She says, and playfully slaps him on the shoulder, but beeps when he picks her up bridal style and sunshine to their room. Kushina's brow twitches, and she lets out a sigh. I need a boyfriend. She mumbles and heads towards the kitchen. Meanwhile, Naruto is heading back to the camp with 2 bags that were filled with wild berries and herbs, and 2 clones were carrying a dead boar that was tied to a long pike. Hitomi was in her hybrid form walking backwards in front of Naruto grinning. You know, Naruto-kun, you should tell your family about us soon. She says, and he nods. I plan on Hitomi-chan, just not right now. I'll tell them after we help Mei save her village and deal with the Yonde Mizukage. So do you think it's possible for Madara to use his eyes on you again? I know the team was capable of doing it twice, and the second time he was in his weakened state. But what's got me worried was even in his weakened state, I still couldn't beat him. If he was that strong when he was weak, I don't want to know how strong he was when he was whole. He says, and she frowns. I agree. The only good Uchiha is the dead one in my opinion. They have been nothing but trouble, especially for me and my kin. They are power-hungry, arrogant, self-centered bastards who would kill even their loved ones for more power. Madara is a prime example. He took the eyes of his own brother just to gain his sight back. That is sick. I may be a demon, but even I wouldn't do something like that. Taking the eyes of a sibling. Disgusting. She says, and Naruto nods. No kidding, but the only Uchiha I will ever respect are Itachi and Obito. Obito saved Kakashi Nai-san's life by giving up his own. Itachi may have been cold and odd, but at least he isn't a traitor. I still can't believe that in my time, he let himself die by Sasuke's hand just so that a brat could be a hero for killing the traitor and murderer of the Uchiha clan. Had if only Konoha knew that they were gonna do a coup to overthrow the Sandaime. He states, and Hitomi nods. Then there is Orochimaru, Kabuto, and Danzo, and his root. I need to kill either one of them soon. I'll probably have to deal with Danzo first, especially when he has those Sharingans and the Sharingan cells implanted into his right arm and eye. I swear that Izanagi technique was a pain to deal with. But then there is Orochimaru and his infatuation with the cursed bloodline. That parasitic body snatcher has to be dealt with also. I don't even want to think about what he would do if he found out about Shinku. He growls out and his eternal Manjikyu Sharingan flashes and spins for a few seconds and then his eyes return to normal. Hitomi saw them and smiled. You know, Naruto-kun, whenever I see your eternal Manjikyu Sharingan I can't help but be drawn to them. Unlike Madara's, whose eyes reeked of malice and evil, yours show compassion, warmth and purity even when you're angry. So how far are you in learning the abilities from those eyes you gained when you absorbed Madara and Sasuke's power from your timeline? She asks. Naruto rubs his chin though and speaks up. Well, I can use Tsukiyomi for at least 120 hours and 4 days. I can also summon the flames of Amaterasu and dissipate the flames. Kamui is a little difficult to control, and my aim has to be precise like Kakashi's, otherwise I'd just be wasting chakra. I can't summon Susanoo yet, but I'm working on it. Madara's teleporting technique is very tough to use. I have to keep my concentration firm, or else I'll end up tearing apart my body, so that'll definitely take a while to master. The techniques I gained from Sasuke were easy to learn. I managed to upgrade Chidori and Rikiri and use their variant forms. I can say this about Sasuke. He was a genius when it came to making variant forms of original techniques. Too bad he grew evil, otherwise I would have respected him as a rival. Hell, what impressed me was when I learned how to use Kirin. I have to say, that's one hell of a he created, especially since he used real lightning with the attack. That right there takes a lot of skill and patience to master. Hell, Kakashi would have a heart attack if he found out about that technique. He'd probably give up Icha just to learn it. He said jokingly, and Hitomi laughed knowing about the copy of Kakashi and how he had 1,000 in his arsenal. He probably would, Naruto-kun, say you said that in your timeline that you absorbed the soul and powers of the Jubi, right? She asks, and he nods. So how many tails can you control now? She asks, and he thinks about it. Right now at least 4 tails. I don't like to rely on it because of how dense and potent the chakra is. While it doesn't destroy my body, I will end up completely exhausted and it'll take me a while to recover. But the good thing about it is that I have 2 chakra sources and can switch them at will, since the use of Jubi's chakra will make them more powerful and cause more damage. He states, and she had a look of awe and amazement in her face. So would that make you the new Jubi, or are you still a, she asks, and Naruto looks up at the sky to think about it. Honestly, Hitomi, I never thought about my status as the new Jubi. It's possible that I'm the Jubi in a way since it's all merged with mine. He answers, and she nods. They were suddenly approaching the camp and Hitomi morphed into her kid form and leaped on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto looked at the clones and spoke. Get a fire ready and start to skin the boar, but leave the fur and tusks clean. Once you're done gutting it, remove the parts we don't eat and toss them somewhere out in the woods. I don't need predators and scavengers getting into our camp. He says, and they nod as they drop the pike and pull out some blades and get to work on the boar. Naruto opens the bag and pulls out a dead rabbit. Here, Hitomi. He says. She yips and grabs the rabbit, running off with it into the forest so that she can eat it in peace. Naruto chuckles at this and walks into the tent with the bag of fruit. Hey you guys, I'm back. He says as he places the bag of food down. Is that all you got, Iniki? Shinku asks and Naruto shakes his head. No. I have some clones outside skinning and disembowelment abode outside. He says as Shinku grabs the bag and pulls out 2 apples and a mango. Who wants the mango? Shinku asks. Naruto holds his hand out and she tosses it to him. Naruto grabs it while she hands the second apple to Mei. Shinku's cheeks bulge and she sprays water onto the apple. Mei does the same while Naruto peels the skin off the mango and sprays it off with water. After that they start to eat the fruit until Naruto speaks up. Hey Amato. Yeah. She replies as she bites into the apple. How far are you on the elemental manipulation part for the Rasengan? He asks, getting Mei's attention at the end of the last war. Not that far. The manipulation of pure chakra is tough enough, but adding your affinity and stabling it is even tougher. She says, and Naruto nods. No kidding. I'm halfway through the wind manipulation part. I need to find a way to control it and keep it balanced, otherwise I'd end up blowing my hand off. He says, and Shinku cringes at the thought of losing an arm. So you two are working on mastering your father's technique. Interesting. Mei says, and they smile. Yeah, that would be amazing. I would have a heart attack if they found out that the children of their most hated enemy improved one of his. I'm also working on making different versions of the Rasengan. I made one that's based off a windmill shuriken and one where it's a larger version of the Rasengan. Another one I'm creating is based off of a drill. Naruto says, and Mei's jaw drops. He made different versions of Yondame's technique. Shinku giggles at her reaction. Don't be so shocked, Mei-san. I'm also making my own versions of the Rasengan, though mine are based more on speed than strength. Right now I'm working on one that I can use for long distances. Kind of like how the puppet users use their puppets. She explains. Mei looked like she was about to pass out, but then spoke up. If I may ask, how strong are you two? She asks, and Naruto answers. Me, I'm at low to mid Anbu level, while Shinku is around low to mid level. We just lack the experience they have. If we go all out then I'm around high Anbu and she is high. He says, and Mei just gapes in awe. Our mom and other members of our family trained us to the ground. That and the Raikage and his brother are psychos when it comes to physical training. Naruto says, and back in the Lightning Brothers sneeze. If I may ask, if I were to fight you both, would I win? Mei asks, and Naruto grins at her. Yeah, you would since you have more experience than us, but we can give you a run for your money. He answered, and she smiled back. Well, at least you're humble about it. Most teenagers your age wouldn't be this strong, and if they were, they'd gloat about it. She says, and they nod. Naruto then smells burning meat. Looks like my clones are done with the boar. I'll be back, Shinku, Mei-san. He says, and gets up and leaves the tent. When he exits the tent, he sees the skinless boar being roasted over a flame on a pike. One clone was cleaning the fur skin, while the other was cleaning the tusks it removed from the boar's head. That was when Hitomi appeared from the bushes licking her muzzle which had some rabbit blood on it. Naruto sees her approach her and smirks. "Did you enjoy that rabbit?" he asks. She looks at him and releases a belch and a tint of pink appears on her muzzle, making him chuckle. "I'll take that as a yes," he says, and she glares at him, which in his opinion made her look cute. "You know no one will take that glare seriously, Hitomi-chan. It makes you look like an angry puppy," he says, and she yips while her ears fall down. Naruto laughs at how she's acting and rubs the top of her head. "None of that now, Tomi-chan," he says as he picks her up and places her on his shoulders. She then licks him on the cheek while he strokes the side of her neck and watches the boar cook. Naruto pulls out a small scroll and opens it. In a puff of smoke, a pair of plates with forks and knives appear. Naruto pulls out a knife and cuts into the boar, removing small slabs of cooked meat and placing them on each plate. Naruto heads back into the tent with the 3 plates. "Who wants boar steak?" he asks with a cheeky grin on his face. Shinku rolls her eyes and takes 2 of them and hands the other one to Mei. "This smells great," Mei says as she takes the fork and knife and cuts a small piece off with a knife and places it on a fork. She lifts the fork to her mouth and bites down on the warm tender meat and chews on it for a while before swallowing it. "This is good," she says and starts to eat more of the steak. "Yeah. I prefer this over deer meat," Shinku says while Naruto nods. "No kidding. Hey, remember when Anko and Yugao took us on that survival trip and you ate those glowing mushrooms?" Naruto says as he snickers at the memory because Shinku's entire body glowed green for 3 days and after that she fell into a bush filled with poison ivy and had rashes everywhere. Then she ended up eating green berries by accident and her skin broke out and she swelled up like a balloon and during their final day, she picked up a skunk by accident and got sprayed. Naruto had never laughed so hard in his life. Shinku glared at her snickering brother and huffed. "That was the worst survival trip ever. I have never felt so humiliated in all my life," she mumbles and Naruto laughs out at the memory. "Oh man, what a trip. Anko would never let you live it down. You know she still has the pictures, right?" he asks and she pales. "What? I thought she got rid of them," she says and Naruto shakes his head. "Shinku, this is Anko we're talking about. You know she's a prankster like me, only worse. I still can't believe you picked up that skunk. Mom had to leave you out in the backyard for a whole week," he states and she blushes in embarrassment and anger. "I was 8 for crying out loud and I thought it was a cat," she yelled, but Naruto laughed even harder. "Please, that's the lamest excuse ever. Even I know the difference between a weasel and a cat. I'm so glad I bolted out of there before you realized what it was," he says while recalling the memory in his head. Flashback. 8-year-old Naruto and Shinku were done with their survival trip and were currently packing their gear up. Anko and Yugao were cleaning up the camp, making sure that they didn't leave anything the wildlife could get. Shinku had put an empty oil lamp in her pack and noticed something that was black, white, and furry. Naruto had finished burying some leftover bones on the ground when he heard Shinku. "Hey Nikki, look what I found," she called out. Naruto groaned and walked towards his sister who had her back turned. "What is it this time, Shinku, and please don't tell me it's poison ivy?" he asks. "No, I found a cat," she says as she turns around grinning with a black and white cat in her arms. Naruto's eyes widen and he steps back. That's not a cat, Shinku, and please put it down slowly," he says as he backs away slowly. Shinku blinks in confusion and walks forward. "What's wrong, it's just a cat," she says, but then Naruto bolts out the area screaming about a skunk. Shinku blinks and holds the skunk away from her face. "What's a skunk?" she asks the cat and it wags its tail and grins evilly. Shinku once again blinks but then her eyes widen. "Oh," she said until it was too late. Naruto ran towards Anko and Yugao and pulled on their pant legs, getting their attention. "What's up Yandame Chibi?" Anko asks and a tick mark appears on his head. "Don't call me that." "You-chan, Shinku just picked up a," Shinku screamed. "Skunk." He finished making their eyes widen and they head towards the spot where Shinku screams. When they get there, they see Shinku surrounded by a green mist and she is coughing and rubbing her eyes. Anko caught a whiff of the skunk scent and she suddenly moved backwards while clutching onto her nose and mouth while her eyes watered and twitched. Naruto was hiding behind Yugao with his shirt over half of his face while the female swordsman had a hand over her mouth. "Oh sweet Kami. Shinku, what the hell were you thinking about picking up a skunk?" Anko asks. Cough cough, I thought it was a cat," Shinku says and continues to rub her eyes. "You thought it was a cat?" Oh great, first the glowing mushrooms, then the poison ivy, now a skunk. What's next? You're gonna play fetch with a wolf. She says sarcastically. Don't jinx it, Anko. Naruto yells, and Shinku glares at Naruto and crosses her arms. Kami Kushina-sensei is gonna strangle me when we come back with the skunk princess. Anko mumbles. So who's gonna take her? She turns around to see Yugao, and Naruto is gone, leaving a dust trail, and a tick mark appears on Anko's head. Boy. Get back here, you cowards. Don't you leave me here with Ms. LePew. She yells while shaking her fist. Flashback ends. By the time Naruto was finished talking about the incident, Mei was clutching her sides while laughing. Shinku's face matched her hair color, and right now she wanted to throttle her older brother. I hate you, Aniki. She mumbled while Naruto grinned. Love you too. Did I mention that Kasan made her stay outside in the backyard for a week? He says, and that only made Mei laugh even harder. That's it. You're dead, Aniki. She screams and tackles him out of the tent. They rolled over on the ground for a while, and Shinku was now on top of him. Naruto was currently laughing as he held her wrists away from his neck. That was when two Kumo Anbu appeared and sweat dropped at the scene. The one with the lion mask coughed to get their attention, and they looked up. Can we help you, Shishi-san? Naruto asks as Shinku blushed due to the fact that she didn't have a shirt on and ran back into the tent while Naruto stood up, dusting off his pants. We were sent here to inform you that your border patrol is done and that a different squad will be taking your place. Shishi, Lion, stated, and Naruto nodded. Thanks. We'll be leaving soon. Naruto says, and the two Anbu shunshin away. The Namikaze siblings managed to clear the camp, and Mei also. After they packed up, they headed back to Kumagakure with Mei following them. Naruto had given Mei a black flak jacket so that the males of the village wouldn't look at her chest. As they walked through the village, Naruto and Shinku were greeted by some of the villagers and ninjas there. Mei saw and talked to Naruto. You two are pretty popular with the citizens of this village. She says, and Naruto chuckles. I think it's due to the pranks I played when I was younger and when I was training with the Raikage and his Itaudo. When me and my family got here, the place was dull, but when I came, well, let's just say that the village hasn't gotten boring, especially when the Raikage sent an Anbu after me whenever I prank him or certain members of his council. But I can say this about the civilian and shinobi council members. They can take a joke better than those stuck-up snobs that live in Konoha. He says, and Mei raises an eyebrow at this. Shinku started to get frustrated and spoke. Aniki, do we have to walk to the tower? Why don't we just shunshin there unless you're hoping to run into Yugi-chan or Samui-chan? She said with a grin on her face. Naruto blushes and glares at him. Shut up. He says and grabs Mei's hand and doesn't realize the blush she had from the contact, and they shunshin to the tower. Raikage Tower. He was currently doing an arm curl up with a dumbbell in his right arm but had his chin resting in his hand and had a bored look on his face. Why did I take this boring job again? I've been doing arm curl-ups for the last 3 hours and I'm bored as hell. Where's Kurabi when you need him? At least I get a good workout with him or Kushina. He thought until Naruto, Shinku, and a woman with russet hair appeared in his office. He blinks when he sees them and then drops the dumbbell, causing the office to shake, and Naruto sweat drops. Bored Raikage-sensei? Naruto asks with a grin on his face, and the man's brow twitches. Shut it unless you want to be my sparring partner for the next 4 hours. He says with a smirk on his face when he sees Naruto pale and waves his arms up in defense. Even though he knew how strong he was in the past, there was no way in the world that he could fight the guy in his current state. The man could split a small mountain in half with just one of his arms or legs and possessed strength that rivaled if not was on par with a Jinchuriki's. He's even seen the man leave dents in steel plates with just a headbutt. Kurabi was just as bad even without his Bijuu's power. These were the last two people you'd ever want to face in the battlefield, and he saw how powerful they were when they took out Kisame during the 4th Shinobi War. Sorry, sensei, but I like living and not having my bones broken. He says, and the man snorts. Cheeky brat. So would you like to explain to me who your companion is? He asks. Oh, this is Mei Terumi, a Kunoichi from Kurigakure. She washed up on the shoreline near the border and stayed with us since. Shinku explained, and he looked at the nervous woman. I see. Isn't Kurigakure in the middle of a civil war right now? He asks me, who nods. Yes. I'm a part of the rebel group. The Yonde Mizukage and his elite guards were on a ship and my group made an attempt to raid the ship and capture if not kill the man, but he expected to pull that stunt. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was him being covered in some kind of chakra cloak, but it was more potent and in a way sinister. She says, making their eyes widen. Mei-san, it's possible that the Mizukage is a Naruto says, and her eyes widen in horror. Oh, Kami. No wonder I couldn't face him. He's a container for A. She says quietly. Yep. There aren't a lot of nin out there that could fight, let alone beat, unless of course you had the abilities of the Sharingan Hokage, or you're also a vessel who is stronger. Like me. I'm the vessel for the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Naruto says, and her eyes widen in shock. But unlike the Mizukages, me and Kyuubi are on good terms despite the fact that it was my dad that sealed her into me. Kumo also has two vessels living here and they too get along with each other. Naruto states, and Mei just stares at them. He coughs to get her attention. My Deshi is right. My Itaudo and my adopted daughter contain and they cooperate with each other to secure their survival. He says, and she just nods. I see. Raikage-sama, I know this is asking a lot and I don't want to involve you with Kiri's situation, but I was hoping that it was possible for you to aid the rebel side in the war. We are mostly clans with bloodlines and some are regular or former Anbu. She requests, and he raises an eyebrow. You're requesting a neutral country to aid you in a war we have no part in. Do you understand that this action could start another great shinobi war? He asks, and she lets out a frustrating sigh. Yes, but what choice do I have? We're being hunted non-stop and half of our forces are already gone. We can't keep this up and it's only a matter of time before the Mizukage decides to purify the other nations that have bloodline users. She answers, and he rubs his chin in thought. It's possible that could happen. Would most likely be the first since we're a lot closer than Konoha is, and I will not let that ignorant fool of a Mizukage try to pull that stunt. This is a lot to think about, Mei-san. I'll allow you to stay in Kumo until I make my decision. Do you need lodging for the time being? He asked. Mei was going to answer until Naruto spoke up. She'll stay with us for now, Raikage-sama. My mother won't mind. Naruto says, and Shinku nods. Are you sure? I don't want to impose, Mei states, only for Naruto to wave it off. Don't worry, we have plenty of room, but a little warning. Keep your distance from Anko. He says, and she blinks with a confused look on her face. Shinku giggles, but then grabs her hand and they shunshin away. See you, sensei, and try not to put another human-shaped hole in the wall. He says, and sunshine away also. He mumbles about blonde cheeky brats getting on his nerves. That was when Kurabi kicks the door off its hinge and it collides with E's head, but it doesn't even faze him as it bounces off his head and a tick mark appears on the cage's head. Kurabi had a grin on his face and started to rap. Big bro, Kurabi and Yujito Nai have completed the mission, yo. He says. Yujito kicks Kurabi in the back of his head while her brow twitches and she has a tick mark on her head. Shut up with the stupid rhymes. I'm surprised he hasn't killed you yet. She yelled while Hachibi was in his container's mindscape begging the man to him and put him out of his misery and saying that Kurabi's rapping was a fate worse than death. Please don't encourage me, Yujito. He mumbled as he wiped the debris from the door off his face. She then sniffs the air and a grin appears on her face. Naruto and Shinku have been here, right? She asks. He nods, but before he could say anything, his adopted daughter was gone via flame shunshin. I swear she can't go one day without playing with that boy. He says. Kurabi snickers and speaks up. The fox likes to play with the cat. What's up with that? He asks, and the tick mark on E's head grows even bigger. 10 seconds later, Kurabi was seen flying across the village courtesy to E. Perry, Omio, and Samui see this and sweat drops appear on their faces. They see the man land in a hot spring bathhouse on the women's side and hear them scream pervert and the sounds of Kurabi getting beaten are heard and their sweat drops grow. Should we go help him? Amoy asks and the three Kunoichi shake their heads. Nope. I'm gonna go find Naruto-kun. My neck and back are sore. She says as she cracks her neck. Perry rolls her eyes and grabs a lollipop from Amoy's bag and sucks on it. Did you take the last strawberry flavored one? He asks. She pulled the sucker out of her mouth and it was blue. Go ahead and keep it. I hate blueberries. He says and walks away while she heads to the hot spring to rescue her sensei. Thanks for watching my video, see you next time, till then sayonara.